My name is Stuart Gardner. I am the chairman and state legislative director for the Sheet Metal Air Rail Transportation Union, formerly United Transportation Union. I represent approximately 1,900 active conductors, brakemen, locomotive engineers, and yard masters within the state of Ohio. Those members work for CSX and Norfolk Southern. I have 45 years in the railroad industry, starting as a brakeman for Norfolk Western back in April of 1974. I was promoted conductor 5 years later, in 1979, and I transferred and was promoted to locomotive engineer in 1992. And elected to my current position in April of 2012. I cannot discuss our effort to secure HB 186, the two-person crews, proper lighting, proper walkways within rail yards, and block crossing legislation in Ohio without addressing safety. Safety of my members and the people who live in the communities that our rail yards are located in and through which our trains travel through and operate will always be my top priority. This alone demands the highest standards of safety possible. While the industry has made meaningful progress in regard to safety in the past 50 years, much more needs to be done. More importantly, the progress that has been made should never be used as an excuse to ignore ongoing safety problems, or worse, roll back regulations, or undermine protocols that have delivered these safety improvements. Unfortunately, that is precisely what the railroads and the FRA, Federal Railroad Administration, are currently attempting to do. Today, freight trains operate safely because they have a minimum of 2 people on a crew. This has been a standard practice for decades, going back at least to 1992, and for good reason. Both conductors and engineers have a long list of responsibilities, which I believe is in some of the handouts that were passed out today, and must work together as a team to ensure safety, efficiency, and compliance with federal regulations while operating freight trains that are over 2 and 3 miles long, often carrying hazardous material. The good news is that virtually all freight trains operating in the state of Ohio are operated with a minimum of 2 crew members. Today, and establishing legislation to provide for the practice to continue will have little, if any, economic impact on our nation's railroads. We have 2 people on trains today because, quite frankly, we need 2 people to get the work done and to get those trains to its destination in the safest and most efficient manner possible. Both labor unions, SMART-TD and the BLE&T organizations have joined together since 2013 in the Lackawanna incident to clearly state our position regarding 2-person train operations and why the issue matters to the future of railroading, our members, and the general public's safety and well-being. With traversing over 5,338 miles of track, 5,700 public road crossings, and we have over 7,317 freight train employees in the state of Ohio. Again, safety is our top priority. From the start, both organizations understand the necessity of this bill. We have been working together as teams and operating cabs and locomotives for decades. The necessity of having 2 sets of eyes and ears to be on a vigilant lookout from both sides of the cab while traveling at upwards of 60 miles an hour is a safety culture we live with. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in all types of weather. This point cannot be understated. 2008, the railroad industry was mandated, of course this was an unfunded mandate by Congress, to implement positive train control. In the year it was supposed to be implemented by 2015, and now 11 years later, the carriers are nearing full implementation after several extensions have been granted. PTC is a step in the right direction by providing another layer of safety for our crews. Simply put, PTC is a crash avoidance system. PTC cannot replace a second crew member that is responsible for many tasks, such as cutting or separating a road crossing, providing point protection while we're shoving our train in the opposite direction of the locomotives, and properly securing the train. PTC can't do that. Those are just a few of the duties a conductor performs. Freight trains, which cannot operate themselves, should be no different. The check, double check, extra set of eyes and ears watching both sides of the train, and divisions of tasks are safety measures that cannot be duplicated by written rule or technology. Every safety professional knows this, and to remove the second person is to compromise safety. Commercial airline industry has for many years been mandated by the federal government by safety regulations to protect the flying public by requiring 2 pilots on commercial flights in this country. No one would permit an airliner to fly with just 1 pilot, even though they can fly themselves. You and me have been told by the carriers that state crew size regulations are preempted by federal law. This simply is not true. Individual states have the explicit authority to regulate railroad safety issues such as crew size. 7 other states in the United States currently have 2-person crew legislation on the books. In the following states: Wisconsin, Arizona, West Virginia, California, and this past spring we have added Colorado, Illinois, and Nevada. These states, we also have 21 other states in the country working at passing 2-person crew legislation. These states all understand that 2-person crews are a common sense approach to railroad safety. Federal Railroad Administration announced in the crew size working group meeting that virtually every railroad in North America today operates with a crew of at least 2 qualified employees. The fact also had an impact in the FRA's decision a few years ago to certify and require federal license for conductors. There is no adverse economic impact on railroads by requiring 2 people on a crew. U.S. Department of Transportation will not allow an engineer-only operation because of the impact it would have on communities. Removing the conductor from a train removes a first responder and troubleshooter when accidents occur and places all the burden on the local communities. For an example, right here in Columbus, July 11th, 2012, a derailment occurred near the fairgrounds and the Norfolk Southern train with a crew consisting of a locomotive engineer, a conductor, and a locomotive engineer trainee went into emergency at the curve to 25 miles an hour. Conductor grabbed his radio, lantern, consist, which is a list of the train from the first locomotive all the way back to the EOT and a train device. And went, proceeded to inspect the train for the cause of the derailment. But he didn't have to go far. He went back 3 cars and the third car was on the ground. You look back a little further around the curve and you saw many more cars on the ground, and they're starting to, they caught on fire. He was able to pass along his information to the Columbus firemen, the complete consists of the train, including the MSDS, a report that lists all the locations and contents of all the hazmat material in his train. This is important so that the fire department would know exactly what type of material they were dealing with and how to treat the fire. The conductor also secured handbrakes on the train and separated the locomotives from the train and pulled a safe distance away as the cars on fire started to explode. This is just one real-life example of the value of the conductor on a 2-person freight train that PTC or any other technology cannot replace. This is a matter of public safety, plain and simple. Freight railroad operations are complex and often entail the transport of highly hazardous materials, including but not limited to crude oil, petroleum products, and chlorine. If a minor or major event disables a train being operated by a single person, then the community itself would have to provide the first response to unblock the grade crossings and deal with the derailment. This completely reverses the concept of safety first and puts profits first. Our responsibility to the communities that we serve is the reason we worked to get safety requirements passed into law and by regulation in the first place. The Ohio legislature cannot defer their responsibilities to protect the public safety. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.